there was a place called an after-hours club called Save the Robot.
Oh, yes.
It was in Alphabet City down there, like, you know, it's all, it was, I suppose it's posh there now, but it wasn't at the time. When it came out in the morning, it was all drag queens and all sorts of things going on out on the street. And it looked like something out of Crush Group. It was all graffiti and everywhere. And that was the way it was. I think if I remember reading on the wall, it was a registered charity, and that's kind of how they got away with it, because it was a proper Save the Robot charity. I went there with Damon Rochford as well. Remember Damon Rochford? Went there with him that night. So I ended up in all sorts of weird places when I was there. And considering I was only there for a week, I think I went to most of it at the time.
But you're remembering you went to the garage and you went to all these spots. I mean, it must have changed you somewhat to come back to London, because New York's a whole different vibe, especially in those days. Well,
the same year after that, and literally a few months later, was when we sort of had that sort of experience in Ibiza. I mean, although to be fair, you know, we all think about it as being 1987, Amnesia and all that. We'd been going to Ibiza as sort of kids on holiday for ages. I mean, I took 300 people there in 1985, with the soul and jazz folk thing, and we played at the Cafe Del Mar in 1985. So it was like a lot of the people that are known for Ibiza now didn't really get there till the 90s. We was 5 or 6 years before doing stuff over there every year, you know, and it was totally different then. I mean, it's mad, you know.
I know it was totally different, because when I first got there, I remember I say this, I've repeated this so many times, but my first time going to play in Pasha, right across that street was all sand.
Yeah. There was no hotels or anything, was there?
There was nothing. There was no El Divino. There was nothing.
No, they were kind of nearly always started off as houses, didn't they? They were all like Amnesia was like a sort of, you know,
house,
just a villa, you know, and then they just keep getting built on. Have you seen that Pasha book? You know, there's a big book they did with, like, it's got all photos from the 60s and 70s of Pasha, because, you know, in the really early days, it's in all the
Ringo's Star hanging out, you know, and the beat,
all that's going on.
Yeah.
So it's funny enough. I've got a little bit later on. I'll talk about Pasha, because I did 2 or 3 years there, like before Spain was even in Europe, and working in Pasha. You know, so I had a bar there in Pasha. So I'll come to that and I'll try and do it in chronological order.
Doing good. We're going to keep you on track.
We're kind of 86, 87 coming into this thing. So we'd all been there before, and I was there with me, Johnny, Paul, and Danny. You know, Danny Rampant. Danny hadn't even started really. He hadn't DJ'd then. He always wanted to. But he was kind of my box carrier at the time. You know, he used to come with me everywhere and all that sort of stuff. And he had this desire to be a DJ as well. But I never really took him serious, because he was just my mate, you know. You know what I mean? It was at the time, it was, yeah, right, mate.
Yeah, right.
Know? Yeah. I didn't take him serious, you know, because he used to help me do my flyers and carry me boxes and drive me around and do that. But I met that Danny in Ibiza a few years before that. In San Antonio, we always used to go to San Antonio. We never really went to the clubs with the foreigners in. We just kind of stuck to the English clubs, because that's all we kind of knew. And when we did go, I remember one night we thought we'd try Pasha, and we weren't really on the same time scale as anyone. And we went all the way over to Ibiza town, went into Pasha. You know that they in the winter bits, in the early season, they sometimes just have the front bit open. You know, when you first go in, the club room, they used to that sphere. So first time I went there, we got there about 12:15, which is way too early to be there, because no one comes in until 2 or 3 in the morning. And we sat around for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, thinking that was it. I didn't realise that the big club was behind it. So we left before they even saw the main club. That was the first time we went to Pasha. We thought, I don't know what. We don't know what all the fuss is about. It's only a little thing, you know. They didn't realise that they opened up the doors at the back and it went into the main club.
You mean the Zenith, which would have been the Zenith bar originally? That area.
Yeah, the Zenith bar. Yeah. My friends used to work in that one. Do you know Carlos Diaz? Argentina guy? Yeah, he used to play there a lot in that one. Yeah, I quite like them little ones. But that bit there, that we thought that there was 2 of them like that. There used to be 2 almost next to each other. I was like, well, what's all the fuss about? This is nothing special. That was it, And then it was next year. It weren't till the year after that we went to Amnesia.
How did we miss this? You probably
it's just we kind of went back to the club over in San Antonio because most English kids, their first Ibiza place they go is San Antonio.
Yeah,
and then they sort of kind of feel like they've graduated after they've been there a while. Then they move over to Bossa and Ibiza Town, and then they poo-poo San Antonio. It's like we're too much to go there.
They don't even venture the way.
No. I always have a night out in San Antonio. I always have a wander around the West End just for old time's sake. I always go and see some old bar owners I know. And I always just like to have a walk around and have a look and see what's going on because it used to get a bum steering because it's actually so much better now than it ever was. I mean, it's not shithole like it was. It's actually nice now. They spent more money doing that up and all that, But where the Café Del Mar was, there was just nothing there. It was just that one building on its own like that. There was no Mambos in it. Nothing at all. That was just a little house as well.
Did you know above the Café Del Mar that Brandon and Alex P were living above?
No, they weren't there. This is 4 or 5 years before they came there. This is like 85, 86. But it was still going well. It was kind of like if people who were out there for the summer they were called workers, even though they're getting by however they're getting by, but they used to all go and sit outside there. That's where I met Sid and a load of people then. But so we DJ'd in there in 85 and 86 inside. And but what it would be is when Javi opened the one next door, which is Mambo's, that was just a house that used to have an old lady sitting out the front, an old couple sitting out the front of it. It was just someone's house. And there was nothing there. It was just a car park. You could drive right down the front bit. I saw this car roll into the sea once. It just didn't put the handbrake on it. It just rolled down into the sea. Blokes running to try and get into it as it's going into the drink. But when he did a good thing, Heavy, a very smart thing. They used to charge for the sunbeds outside the Café Del Mar because everyone would go sunbathe there in the afternoons. Because they wanted money for the sunbeds, when Heavy opened, he let them have the sunbeds for free. So everybody started going there. And over the space of a year or 2 years, the Café Del Mar was actually empty for a while everyone was going there because all the workers were going there. And the drinks were cheaper. And he used to have his always welcomed the English and the people there, whereas the cafe were a little bit more, they're a bit more, they didn't want to know so much, if you know what I mean. I always got on right with them, but it was always a bit like that. You felt welcome at Mambo's.
But you know how everybody is. If they hear the word free, they're there.
Yeah. Well, no, if you're out there and you're just getting by on a small amount of money, then you don't really want to pay for a sunbed every day.
Yeah, why would I want to pay for when I get?
Yeah.
Plus, then you know how it works. Is once he gets everybody there, everyone's drinking all day.
Yeah,
that's the key.
But he was just a little bit more. He was a bit more welcoming, And I remember his two sons were like nippers. They were nippers. They were like kids. Yeah. Yeah. When I met them, so I've seen them every year. I've seen them a year older. And it's just like it's just, getting taller and taller.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So after there used to be a good club at the back of called Manhattan's, which was really good. It was in San Antonio. Then everybody used to go to one called the Star, which was the one that ended up being. He saw my chairs going on. Wow. Hang on. I'm having a fight. I'm having a fight with my chair.
Hold on, everyone. He's testing out the 1,000-pound chair.
Yeah, no, what it is, I wanted to be able to do, the bit where you can go like that. The first time someone sits in it and leans back, and they go right the way back, don't they?
They think it's going to fall back.
Yeah, you do. It does feel like it's going to go over, doesn't it? That's what I wanted to do. So anyway, the Ibiza thing. Yeah, we were taking people over there in 85, 86, 87, got 200 or 300 people. And then I kind of, what year are we in then? 87, yeah. So when we came back from there, the house, the people who'd been out there all summer, they wanted to recreate what had been going on out there in Amnesia and all that stuff, the music they were playing and all that. So that's when the sort of Ibiza style party started here, but with mostly the people who'd been out to Ibiza working in the summer. So when they came back in September, all they wanted to do was be with their friends and neck exercise.
Right.
I mean, it was about the music. It was always been about the music, but the first time in years, you had a fashion, a music, and a drug that all came together right at the first time, at the same time. It's normally you know what I mean. It was like the biggest thing since punk, basically. And I can remember, like when we started Trip at the Astoria. This was now sort of 87. After that, when we started that, I didn't think that we didn't think we were going to open the upstairs because we weren't sure if we'd get enough people. I was thinking if we get 600, we'd just have them all downstairs. Of course, we had like full house first night, 2,000 people. But we sort of planned it for that. And Salt and Pepper had been playing live there, and we had like sort of 30 minutes to get their crowd out, set up all our equipment and all our stuff and podiums and all the lighting and all that, and then open again at 11. We'd open at 11. They'd have a curfew of 10:30. So there had been 2,000 people in there watching Salt and Pepper. They were all out, gone, and then we were in. And that went for like a few years. That was Trip. Trip and Sin.
How do you do such a change that quick from a whole crowd within 30 minutes to get your crowd in, cleaned up and rocking? How do you do all that?
Well, it might have been longer than that. It might have been like an hour or something, but it weren't much. It wasn't very long.
A lot to get that amount of people.
I think their curfew was 10, and then we was allowed to go in from there, go half-hour to get them out. Well, they had doormen just throwing them out, basically. Just the fire exits are all open, and out you went. That venue, the Astoria, there was no such thing as security cameras and CCTV in those days. It was a big black torch and a Rottweiler. That was, and a security guard like that. That was it. And that was half the problem when we stopped doing it. It was because too many people were getting in through the side doors. Just baying the doorman backhanded to get in.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha. But we had a good few years in it doing that. We had. I think I was the first one to put on Dave Morales. I was
going to ask you that. Were you the first?
Well, it would have been. I think it would have been 1988.
Okay.
It was 1988, and we put on Kevin Saunderson. The first one put Kevin on, and Freddie Bastone came over. He didn't play, but he came and hung out one night. And let's see how else we had. Oh, Derrick May. No English DJ had heard of these people.
I bet really? Not. There was no
they hadn't. Not the customers didn't. The only reason I was putting on is because Pete Tong, who was resident with me on the Saturday, was kind of doing music things with them through his FFRR label and all that. He was kind of getting them doing a remix or talking to them. I didn't know who they were, a lot of them at the time, but Pete said he'd be a good person to put on. We had Hippie Torrales over once, right? When we're going to miss me when you're gone. You're going to miss me when you're gone.
A Turntable Orchestra.
Yeah. Well, we booked him to come and do I thought we booked him to do a PA. We wanted him to do it on the stage, but he thought we'd been booked to DJ. So we somehow managed him to do both. We had the DJ, but he'd never done a PA before. But we got him to do. You're going to miss me when I'm gone on the stage. He's like we talked him into it. But fair play, he done it.
Yeah, it's fair.
Tyree Cooper met over that time as well.
The thing about Hippie and a lot of them, we knew Hippie as a DJ, never as a singer guy. When you miss me when I'm gone.
I don't think he'd ever done it before. Like I think he
knew he ever sang. I was like, what is this?
And we had that raise. We had a lot of PAs on that.
Hold on, the record came out with Turntable Orchestra, so we didn't even know it was. Yeah, it was like. Not 2 years later, we saw a video with him on it. It was like Hippie was on stage singing this.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he was like he thought he was coming there to DJ.
Think about it. He was a disco DJ from Zanzibar, New Jersey. at Zanzibar where Tony Humphries played. So when you think he'd be getting booked, he's probably think I'm going to get booked. Boy, we don't want you.
Well, they came over as well. Phase 2, you know, reaching. You know that they came over and did something as well. I'm trying to remember what it was. We tried to have a lot of PAs on there. You know, like if because I always remember when I was a kid, I always remembered the nights when someone was up there singing.
Yeah.
You know. So it just sort of the night. It was always like I always remember seeing the Sugar Hill Gang. Always remember seeing McFadden Whitehead. You know, and always remember seeing Fat Larry's band, all at this other club. So I tried to do the same thing, was put something on every week. You know, so the big records. If we could find someone that did the big records, you know, they'd be on like the Ellison Lyrics and the Rays and people like that. We got them all up there to do stuff.
So really, you were breaking this music on the strength of others telling you, book this person, this record's happening.
Yeah, on that one, yeah. And then you find out who they are, and then you realise you've got all records with their names on them. But it wasn't really, most of the actual customers, the crowd, they wouldn't have known who Dave Morales was. No, they do now. They do now, but they, you know, there was a lot of people passed through that place. You know?
So here's the question: in the beginning, was it difficult to get these New York guys to fly over? Was it a difficult thing?
It wasn't too bad actually, no. Because the thing is, you've got to remember as well, these records weren't necessarily doing anything special in America. They were like bigger here than they might have been there. You know, they weren't, you know, and they weren't getting paid big bucks in those days. I mean, you know, it wasn't like it went big later on. You know, they became stars later on. But at those times, they were actually quite happy to be invited to come, because it wasn't like everyone was doing it. You know, Todd Terry and all them people, they were all, I think Todd was another one I put on as well in the early days.
Yeah, you people come through your
yeah, and we was doing, at the same sort of time as that was those things going. We were doing these weekenders in the holiday camps, you know, like they do with the one up that's the soulful one. You know, what's the one that Alex Lowe's does? Can't remember the name of it. No, Southport Weekend things. Southport, yeah. It's like them, but I was doing them down south. And we was doing these chaos weekenders. We did 4 or 5 of them, and it was just things were just exploding. And we'd finished the Astoria at 3:00, and then jump in the cars and head to a rave around the M25 afterwards. And it was just exploding week after week. Talk about good timing for marketing. It was like this was a marketing man's wet dream. The 2 style magazines in England at the time was ID in the Face magazine. They were the cool magazines, trendy magazines. And they both, the night I started this story, they both new editions, front page specials about this new music and this new scene. And we opened that weekend. It wasn't planned. We didn't get them to write these articles and like it would be now. Now it'd be like one of these clubs talking them into doing this article to go with it as a marketing plan. But it just fell together like that. It just, you know, just fell that way.
Incredible.
And it's just, you know, you were going. It was at one time in '88. There was somewhere to go every night. And they were all busy. Before it got a bit towards the end of that era. So for me, I left the place because it was getting a bit too heavy. If there was more rougher elements getting involved and coming in, it was like a powder keg. You kind of like it stopped being enjoyable because you spent all night long worrying about the certain people being in there. Do you know what I mean? Some bad elements have started to creep in there, and they weren't coming through the front door either. It was just the security companies letting them in. It was just great. And right next door to it, there was a bar that we all used to go and sit into because we had an office in Astoria called Ivory's, it was. And we used to go in there every night afterwards for a drink. Me and Lisa and Kristen worked for me. And they said, well, we're selling up because we're never that busy. And they said, well, do you want to rent it from us? We thought, yeah, maybe we could do a little bar there. So the kind of talk, we thought, like let's do a bar instead. So let's go small again and keep it nice, the nicer crowd. because it was getting to the point where some people weren't going to the big things because of the rougher element, you know, some of them. But so we opened up the Milk Bar.
Okay.
Because I like the name from there. So, and then the week we left, we had a bigger queue outside the Milk Bar, which is in the same alleyway, same road. It's like right next to the building next door. But exactly that. And we were still painting it on the night we opened. Right? There was like people, first thing that came in the door, leant up on the thing and got like a white paint all on them. We were still tacking down the carpets as they were queuing outside. It was that, but it was quite a sort of makeshift thing with just friends helping. You know what I mean? It was like doing it on a bit of a budget. But that Milk Bar for the first couple of years was just like, well, we had, I found a flyer of it the other day, and this was the week. It was Monday nights was Darren Emerson and myself, right? Tuesday nights we had private hires. We just left that one open because Tuesday's always been the worst night of the week. Wednesday night was Danny Rampling, Too Sexy. He's their night. Thursday nights we had bands on, and the first 4 bands we had on that night was a man called Adam, Brand New Heavies, Jamiroquai, and it was the James Taylor Quartet. So we had a band night with a DJ that on the Thursday. Friday night was me and Paul Obenfeld. Saturday night was Pete Tong and Dave Durrell, and Sunday night was Lisa Loud and Brandon Block. That's the whole week.
I know.
And that was every week. You know, but in those days, you see, if you wanted to be out later than 11 o'clock, because all the pubs where people actually lived in the suburbs all shut at 11 o'clock, so you had to go into the West End to get anything late going on. Nowadays, everywhere's got late licenses all round, so the West End's pretty dead at the moment. There's not been much going on in there. You know, they kind of killed it a bit. It's not like the people would travel.
W1 area? You talk about the W1 area?
Yeah, Soho. I mean, you know, so you can't park, you can't drive. You know, they just took the fun out of it. You know, it's just all moved elsewhere. It's all going on in the suburbs now, or around the edges. But there wasn't in those days. Though there was no Shoreditch or the Claphams, or there was no like the way things are going off now all around the place. They just didn't really exist. People went at the West End.
By the way, there was an East London area club.
Yeah. First night at Milk Bar, we had like the Bono came down, and you know, because Paul just started doing some work. It was we always had quite a few famous people coming in, you know, like just rocking up, Kylie and all that sort of stuff. Wow. It was only a small club, but we looked after people down there, and it was people liked it. They look back on it with fond memories. That one. Yeah. Do you know what was funny? I was just thinking about it. At the time, we only had at the time it was only open till 2 o'clock, but the actual our license was actually only 1 o'clock. But like all the other places were 2, so I said we just used to go till 2 o'clock for a year, or 2 years. We just assumed that the police wouldn't even notice, and they didn't. So we didn't have the full 8 license. We just used to do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Got away with it somehow.
You couldn't get away.
But we didn't have it. You know, we had a nice crowd of people in there. You know, it was like people look back at the things and they remember our security. You know, and as friends. You know, and you know what I mean. Everybody liked coming there because they felt safe because they knew the people running it were them. You know what I mean? So it had that sort of friendly vibe. You know, we're all on the same page, sort of thing. We never used to have any trouble in the Milk Bar, and then later when we moved around the corner to do the Velvet Underground.
Right.
Because what happened was the lease run out, and they were always planning to knock that whole corner down to build what they've built there now. So 10, 20 years ago, that's only recently happened in the last 5 or 6 years, but it was being planned 20 years ago. So all the buildings in that area only got short leases. So they were there. So I moved from Astoria to next door, and then when that was going, I walked around the corner and I found an old restaurant, restaurant club thing, literally a stone's throw away from what the other one was, and then we got that one up and running.
Wow.
So I literally kept moving down the road. And we went about 100 yards and had 3 venues. Yeah.
So
I mean, young man's game now. I don't think I'd want to be out in the club every night of the week now, though. It's a bit old for that.
Oh.
But at the time, if we was in our 20s when we were running them things. We were only 25, 26 at the time, which is quite young. But we did it. It was, for the love of music, really. And not all the other clubs, weren't playing decent music. We were,
And you know what happens when you do something like that? You become a target because people are seeing your club is packed almost every night. And then everybody's trying to copy what you do.
Yeah.
So the copy is either one or two things. One, they're either giving you the credit that you are great at what you do, or two, they're trying to pull the money away from you. It's either one or the other one.
I remember one night down there we had Sister Sledge had come over to do some gay boat trip to Amsterdam that got cancelled while they were here. So David Levy, David Levy, manager, he was looking after him. So I got a phone call on a Saturday afternoon saying, "Do you want?" Because I had 2 gigs on that day, 2 small ones, right? And they said, "Do you want Sister Sledge to do a PA, just to get some?" They wanted to just try and claw some money back for the flights and all the things that they spent getting them over. So unannounced at the Milk Bar and this other gig we did at Rascals around the corner, unannounced, no advertising, anything like that. It was just, "Oh, we got something a little bit special for you now. Please welcome Sister Sledge." And they did "We Are Family," and they did the four big named hits and that. It was like people were just like, wow. You know what I mean? They hadn't seen it anywhere. They didn't have time to tell anybody.
How, you know what? Those are the kinds of surprises that we all love.
It worked out perfect.
You imagine if you would have had camera phones in those days?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I don't think I've got one photograph of that. I know a friend of mine has got one. But we didn't have any. Mind you, in a way, some of the things that were going on, it might have been better without cameras. Yeah. I remember in Ibiza, no cameras were allowed in any of the clubs. It was like all the doors used to have a picture of a camera with a the red circle around it with a line for it. Yeah.
Boy, that changed when we got the phones. Everywhere you start seeing pictures popping up.
Yeah, a friend of mine lost her phone once in space, and we had to go there in the afternoon. And we went down to the back to there's a lost property office, and on the table there was a pile of passports and a pile of phones and a pile of sunglasses, like a huge pile of literally probably got 300 or 400 phones, 300 or 400 passports, 300 or 400 sets of glasses, things that they just found and put there. Like, which one's yours? There's loads.
But that truly, I was saying before, I don't know if you heard me, I do remember playing Velvet Underground, your spot, and I do remember you didn't allow cameras in there. We didn't have camera phones in those days. Didn't have them. Yeah,
no, Velvet was a good little club. It was a natural continuation from that one, And we put a nice sound system in there, and it was same crowd just moved around the corner.
Dude, you always did a good job. Wherever clubs you were.
Yeah, also we had drum and bass nights in as well, Fab and Groove, and we had lesbian nights, and we had gay nights, and we had mixed nights. We had practically everything. Jazz nights, soul nights, good music all around.
Yep.
Yeah. That's true. But it was one of those things, I look back at it, we never really had long enough leases on any of those things to be able to make any money out of it. In other words, you build a business up and you can't sell it because there's no lease.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, you can build it up, make it successful for a couple of years, and if it's got a 20-year lease, you can sell it on to somebody else. Get out while it's at its peak. But we can never do that. We made a living, and we did all right out of it, but we were never going to get rich out of it.
Right.
I've always found that it's never the innovators and the people that come first doing something that make the money. It's always the people that come second that make the money. It's never the trailblazers. The actual people that think of these ideas, set them up, and do them. They normally end up losing their shirt, and then the person that comes along and picks up the pieces, the second one along is the one that comes and makes all the money.
No, it's just the way it is.
Yeah,
just happens. Yeah. So along that way, we went to the early '90s, and I could tell And of course, I remember you as a DJ and club owner, pretty very well known, and everybody was talking about, all the, Nicky Holloway is the party guy. Nicky Holloway's going strong. Nicky Holloway's doing these great nights. Nicky Holloway's events are the bomb. You got to play them. And I know you're making good money in those days and things are good. When does that roller coaster, as it hits the top, starts to,
Yeah, well, for me, that's that. They say what goes up comes down. And it was kind of like I left. I had a partner in the Velvet called Leon, and we were kind of on different pages. He would invite down some people that I would have spent my life avoiding to the club. He'd be bringing down people that were people we didn't really want in there, and we kind of weren't seeing.
Wait, are you talking like gangster type guy?
Yeah, a bit like that. Yeah. Like it was just like we try really hard keeping them all out, and then he's turning up as we're closing with people that we didn't really want in there. And there was a lot of things going on in those days where people were buying nightclubs, wanted to buy all the nightclubs because they could launder money in them. Because you could have a nightclub and you go to the bank the next morning and bank all this cash. Because they don't know if you had 10 people in the club or if you had 2,000 in there. So nightclubs was always a good way for them to wash up other thing money. And we kind of like kept away from all that sort of thing. And I felt it was coming closer. And I kind of, because I've never wanted to really get involved with any of them. And I found this other big venue it was in the West End, and I got the lease on it. And we didn't get the planning permission in the end, and it took about a year to do it. It was a brilliant building. It was like the social club where people who used to play in all the theatres in the West End. It was where they went before. Oh, tonight you're in this theatre, tonight you're in that one. The orchestras in the band. And they had this big memorial to the band that played on the Titanic that sank. Because the band played on when the Titanic sank, didn't they? Yes. And it was on 4 floors, and if we just didn't get the planning permission, we were all right with the police, all right with the fire, had all the plans drawn up, everything's done, and I ran out of money. I used all the money from getting out of the Velvet. It took sort of 2 years out of me doing that, and it all came to nothing in the end. I've still got it all in boxes out the back there. And I was a bit devastated with that, and I was drinking too much and doing too much of the other thing, and it was like, when you have a club, the phone rings. All of a sudden, when you haven't got a club, the phone don't ring as much. Do you know what I mean? People sort of, they don't get,
cliche. When you're hot, when you're not.
And it was definitely that, that it felt like that a bit. And I was skint, and I wasn't getting so much. Well, I was getting bits and pieces, and I had, was sort of all my stuff was in storage, staying in people's houses, and I had hit a lull. You know what I mean? Because I'd been on a sort of bender of cocaine for like a couple of years, and during that period, and I couldn't see out the way out of it. And that's when I sort of basically a few people got together, Lynn Cosgrave and Johnny and Paul and Lincoln over in Singapore, and they kind of chipped in and sent me to a rehab clinic. Just because I didn't really have anywhere else to go. I was fucked. It was like had no money, no work, everything storage, big problem, drunk every day, and it was like.
Well, let me ask you something.
I don't know. It's 7 years of sobriety, I think.
Hang on. Before you get to the point of them chipping in, which is a valiant thing, and I do remember hearing about that. How did you support the habit when you're no longer having the income to keep you? You know what I'm saying? Because that's
that was it. That's what I remember. I think it was because I just run out. I mean, no, I think it's because I was doing gigs still, but probably every penny was going to that rather than.
So when Peter would take Peter's money,
I'd go out on a Friday, Saturday night. I'd earn £1,000 over the weekend and I'd come home with nothing or owing something. It It was bad. It was, you know, but it's something that's happened to a lot of people since. I'm not the only one, you know.
No, it's okay. And listen, it happens to the best people. By now, you should have been a millionaire 10 times over, probably.
Yeah. See, I kind of, well, a lot of people were getting their shit together, you know, and doing all these other things. And another thing I missed out on a lot was the label and the music side of things, because I was so busy. I was out every night, and it was like, you know, lock-ins every night. I'd come out of the clubs, and it's daylight, and everyone's going to work, you know, and I'm going home and going to sleep, and then getting up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, having something to eat, and then going back into town, and then doing it all again. And it was just like a rat on a wheel, you know. But we did print some things off that were good at that time, but it just all went wrong.
But when you're in that wheel, that squirrel, you know, like the squirrel wheel, is it fun anymore?
No, it stopped being fun. It stopped being fun. And that's when I decided to. It was almost like when I went to the Charter Nightingale, it was in Liston Grove. And, you know, you can't speak to anyone for like a week or so. And, you know, there's no phones allowed and all that. And it was like, I actually got in there that night and I breathed like a big sigh of relief, you know. And I managed to do 7 years like without any drink or any drugs. So I went 7 years, and that was the only thing is, when you come out and you're sober and you haven't got that crutch of the other things, it's really hard working in the nightclub side of things, because everyone who's off their head and pissed is like annoying. You know, if you're not on the same vibe as it, it's like, oh, go away. and then you know, you're not going to the
Wait.
Yeah, you're right, mate.
Come out of here. Leave me alone. Yeah. Wait. You're telling me the one that had one of the best parties in the world is telling everybody, get the hell away from me right now, because I don't.
I'm going home at the end of the night. You know, it's all right when I'm DJing, but I didn't. You just don't want to be in a club unless I was DJing. If I was working, it was fine. But even then, you know, like it was all these sort of things that could trigger. It was so easy to slip back into it, you know. And
how did you find yourself not going back that way? What would you do?
Well, I went meetings. I did all AA and NA and all that sort of stuff, and read the books. But I actually got stuck into technology and making music. To be honest with you, that's like became my new fix. You know, and I need something to take that space up where I spent so much time drinking, jugging, and you know, I was living over in Bow. I started to get things back together again. You know, it was all right, but it was a bit like, didn't you used to be Nicky Holloway? Oh, he's crashed and burned. You know what I mean? And they didn't want to invite you to things because they know everyone is going to be doing things at these parties, and they feel awkward. You know what I mean? They feel awkward knowing that you've had a problem with it.
They don't know how to be. They don't know what to say. It's like,
yeah, it's like, so they come back to the house afterwards for a party, but you don't really want the person who's all straight telling you off, and you know, who's all preachy. You know what I mean? It was a bit of a lonely time in my life. But a friend of mine gave me a laptop, and I got on the internet for the first time. And it was
soul searching. Hang on a second. So this really more of a soul searching time to see where you really fit. You know, you're like, your old life is no longer the life you want to live.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I went to Ibiza quite a few times, and I went like to Australia and to Rio and where, but not having a drink or anything at all. Like, you're not even on the plane or anything, you know. And it was just all a bit alien. You know, it felt a bit weird. You know, but then I started to doing music when I went on my trips. You know, on laptops, and started to use that time in the hotel rooms where you might be, you know, sitting around hotel rooms. It's a bit boring.
I was going to ask you this question: are you musically inclined? Do you know how to play any instruments?
Well, I didn't then. No. But I can do keyboard stuff now. You know, I kind of made music, but then I didn't really have the vehicle to get it out to anyone, if you know what I mean. It was like,
I don't remember seeing music coming out with your name on it back in.
I did have there was one in 1987 that got signed. That was Sure Beats Working. Actually sold 8,000 copies of it.
Tell everybody, Tell everybody the name of the track and everything.
Sure Beats Working, and it was like a Balearic-y thing. You know, that sort of,
Simon,
I have made records.
Hang on. Read this. Hang on. Simon says he did a track for FFRR.
It was that one. Yeah, I did 2 actually. And the second one was second one, I don't know how we got it. We actually used the Prince sample. And no, I don't think we licensed it. Got put out. I think we used about 4 different tracks in this. It was the follow-up to that thing, and I did a PA of it. That was going back further than that, you know.
So when you were doing this, you were probably...
I've actually made loads of music that no one's probably ever heard. You know?
Yeah, so when you were doing that stuff, you probably were doing it for more of a laugh at that time because you were so wrapped up in everything else.
Yeah. Well, I did, you know, I was Ben and Andy. I don't know if you know Ben and Andy, the Boiler House was. They re-recorded. Do you remember a record, Give Me a Sign by Index?
Sure I do. Holy hell. That was out of the Canadian.
Canadian. Well, I think we had them on once as well.
Homex is another record. What the hell is the name of that label?
Big Shot.
Big Shot, yes.
Yeah, they had like a red and a black one, wasn't it?
Red and black, Homex.
Yeah, and they're Dion, Can't Get My Love in and all that as well. Yeah.
My memory's not so bad. But
no, that's not. But anyway, so we always thought that, you know, that was could have been a good pop song. So they got the guy from EMF, you know, the bloke who sang that. You're unbelievable. They got him to sing it. Yeah. They got him to do a version of it because it always sounded a bit like Depeche Mode anyway. It always sounded quite monotone. So I got that. So I started working on doing a remix of that because they always used to hear me play it. They said, I'll do a remix of that. And I pretended I could do it. But then I had this massive learning curve. I got Reason and tried that. And then I got Keybase and tried that. And I was like, wow, this is great. And then from then onwards, I was hooked. I got studios. I was doing a lot of production stuff for a while, and even quite a bit of that, and a few adverty things. Because I was not going out basically for 7 years, I didn't really go to the club or anything unless I was DJing.
Wait! You mean you going out? It's like you're in prison, like you're in a box. Oh, where were you hiding?
Holloway prison. No, I mean I see people, but it was like unless I thought I had an excuse to go, it's like, you know. I'm not a punter, you know what I mean? I used to either be running it or working on it. You know, I don't like
the English expression. Everyone will understand this. You couldn't be asked.
Couldn't be asked. Yeah. Well, no, it's a bit like, you know, if you're not DJing or you're not working on the event, you're just a fat old man. You're just a fat old man looking at young girls in a bar. You know, it's like. But if you've got, you know, a reason to be there. I don't really like going somewhere unless it's a good friend's party. I don't really like it unless if I'm DJing, fine. If I'm promoting, if I'm doing something, I don't mind being in that environment. But if I'm not, I just don't know what to do. No, so that it was a weird one. It's a weird one.
So 7 years on the sidelines waiting to come back, and then you get encroached into Reason, a computer, and you start doing it all. And now you're at the point you're making records now. Yeah. I've got to. I kind of like. I started this thing about 3 or 4 years ago now, but I kept adding stuff. My plan is to do the complete opposite to anyone else, and that is make a double album. You know, I'm making an album. Right, it's not going to be on Spotify. It's not going to be on Apple. It's going to be sold for one website. They're getting so little money from Spotify. You get 1 million listens, you get 20 quid through the place. What's the point of that? I'd sooner sell 100 on my website to my friends. You know what I mean? It's not worth it. For just sort of that whole model is wrong. You know, no one's getting paid. So I just sooner not let them have it and just do it from my own way. Go back like it used to be, out the back of the van, you know. Your own say. But selling to
I'm proud of the stuff I've made at the moment, though, because no one's heard any of it yet, right? But I've got 6 that are ready to be heard, and I think people will be actually surprised when they, because it's not shit. It's really good. But it's trying to find a vehicle for it now. So who knows? Yeah, there's no seem to be any music business anymore for dance music. I don't know. They never don't, just don't know how you do it like that anymore. I used to know everyone in the industry. Now I don't really. There don't seem to be much of an industry left.
Well, can you explain the difference to what you're seeing now to what it was back then?
Well, I would knock out
records, the way
bootlegs and stuff, of things, and you could sell a couple of thousand in a weekend in those days, and almost like you could almost sell 500 of practically anything, as long as it was something decent in them days, when all the vans were going around the record shops and things. So I did do quite a few of them things, but all under different names and that. I lost the confidence to put my own name to things. So, because I feel that when people they won't listen to it with open ears if they think it's me, because they think it's going to be like, oh, that's just going to be classic house, even though it's nothing like that. Even though it could be something completely different. They pigeonhole you and they think it's going to be that. So I was doing them under pseudo-names because that way people might actually listen to it. Whereas if they think it's you, then they probably... Yeah. There's a bit of that familiarity breeds contempt a little bit, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It could be the same record, but if it comes from the new kid on the block,
it's true.
Yeah,
I do know that test because we've tested that. We've changed names on records and did the same stuff we did 25, 30 years ago. Check this out. And people are saying to me, this is shit hot. No, it sounds like 1990. Yeah. What are you talking about? But it's just because they think it's new because it's a name they don't recognize. They found gold.
I play a lot of them. I've actually now when I'm DJ, so I've got enough of my own stuff to play a 2 or 3 hour set, and so I play them out myself, and I see them work. And people do ask me what they are and things like that, DJs and people like that. But I just I'm glad I have them because you only get one step. If I had put things out even a year ago, listening to them now to what they did a year ago, they are just different gravy. So I've learned so much in this last year.
Sure.
I've just been like I realised I didn't really know what I was doing before, and I've learned so many things. Gain staging and phase, and all things that even how to use the SSL channel strip and all the things like that. Just little things I'd read about the techie stuff. I just thought that's layering kick drums and all the things like that. And when I listened to some of my old tracks, I didn't even realise that the parts of it weren't even in tune. Because when you listen to something enough times that's out of tune, you think it sounds right, and then the next day you turn it on and listen to it and go, well, that ain't right.
Yeah, but back then you could get away with stuff like that because things were loose back then. We didn't have the tools to make everything perfect. Now with auto-tune, everything is edge.
But you got
it sounds way out. Anything.
You got like spectral layers and RX and all that, and you can pull the separate stuff now. So it's like
back when we were doing it in the beginning, you had to make all that from scratch. You didn't have loops to grab. You didn't have sounds to start with. Now but it's all there for you. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when you say get back to my playing stuff, I do put them all the stuff in myself. Or sometimes I'll nick the DNA of the, I literally will play along slowly with the MIDI. Like, might take me like an hour to do this one bar of getting it right, the timing and the phone, the timing and the right, because it can look right on the screen but not sound right.
But you got the time right now.
Well, I haven't. I've got something like 26 tracks. Like there's a couple of covers, but the couple of things are a bit half and half, and the rest are quite, they're good. I can't wait to play them to people. But there's been no point in putting anything out this last year, is there? Because it's basically clubbing music. So what's the point in putting it out now? Just wait.
Well, that's the problem. There is no club yet.
Hopefully it'll creep back. I think it will. I mean, it has to come back because there'll be a whole. I think when it does come back, you're looking at a third Summer of Love. Because you've got a whole set of kids that have never been out.
Ideas, mate. Another Summer of Love would be absolutely out of control.
The only thing though is like these generational things. Well, a lot of the kids these days are all a bit wet. And I don't know if they actually. They don't. Their mums went out raving. So I don't know if they will do it because people don't like doing what their parents did.
That's the thing.
The ghost has to jump another generation, doesn't it?
Wait. I mean, this social media shit is sitting at home all day on your computer has to get tiring. You want to be out.
Yeah, you think so, wouldn't you? You'd think so. But as if there's any clubs left to go to. Well, there will be. There will be.
And there'll be a whole bunch of new stuff popping up. You could be sure.
Yeah, definitely. There will be.
Nicky, talk to me about when you got to that point, right? As you went to rehab. I know you said you went, you blew out that steam.
I'll tell you what, I just thought of something while on something.
Share it.
You know the Wikipedia thing, right? Someone, I didn't know, well, I didn't do it, but it was like that for years. And then the last bit of it, and then you crashed and burned and went to rehab. Because I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know that anyone could like chip in. And there's all these other people putting crap up there that's not even true. And it's stuck there for about 3 or 4 years, just ending on that bumbo. And I've done loads of new stuff since then. And I thought, why ain't no one putting that up? Right? So I'm the first to admit I did cheat on it. I did get my mum to put some stuff up there. Because it was all true, but no one was putting it up there. You know what I mean? So it is all true what I put on there. So the last paragraph I wrote, to be honest with you, probably get thrown off it there. But like the last, because it was just all a sad note. And I thought, well, what about all the good things that have happened since then? Why don't I put, so I did it under a movie name, put the last bit up.
So open up your Wikipedia and then wait. Open up the Wikipedia and tell us what the hell you wrote the last paragraph.
And then it was just to try and make it a little bit more upbeat rather than just
did you really
ending on it. Just the last
did you? Okay, hang on. Did you really, as it says, did you really crash and burn, or did you just lose steam? Which one was it?
Probably both. Same thing, really. No, just didn't really have any other options. I couldn't carry on the way I was going.
Did you realize that you think you're going to kill yourself at that point, or you just said?
Well, I'd done something really embarrassing as well. I'd done something that could have got me arrested. I broke into an ex-girlfriend's house and stole her phone because I thought she was cheating on me, and she was. And it was like, but I kind of booted the door in, and there would have been cameras there and all this, so I wanted to get some stuff out of the house. So she got to work. I thought she weren't opening the door. So, and it was like, and I thought, I got home and I woke up the next day. So I was obviously off my nut, and I thought, this has got to stop. I could go to jail for that.
That's when you knew you were out of control, right?
I had to ring the girl up and beg her not to take it any further because, like the neighbours saw, I could have gone to jail for that. And I'm far too pretty to go to jail.
You wouldn't do
what I mean? No, but it really was. It was. What they say the bottoming out thing. It was. What's the word? Is this word they call it? Was
you hit rock bottom? You hit rock bottom.
Yeah, bottom down.
There is no more bottom, no more.
Yeah. There was a wake up call. There was a wake up call. I thought, what, can you imagine that? The embarrassment of that. I'll never want to go to jail.
Because you're a classy dude. Come on, you weren't. I mean, I know.
No, but I wasn't then. I was getting messy all the time. It was just like it's just been years of that, and then you sometimes just got to go hands up and just walk away from it, which I did. Just a build up.
Okay, so how close?
I'm not the only one that's happened to. I've seen it outside.
There's a lot of people that went through this shit. That's the problem. The party never stopped for some people. It just never stopped.
That's why. When everyone else was getting their stuff together and making money, I was just out spending it. And then when the taps turned off and there was no money coming in, it's even sadder then. But anyway, it's just. That's just a small part of my life.
It's educational, Nicky, that you can see the outside the other.
I look back now and I cringe. I think, Christ, how did it get that bad? But it did. You know what I mean?
But now that you're looking at it from a different perspective, what would you have done differently? I know you had time to think about it. What would you have done differently?
Probably nothing.
See? See what I mean?
I feel about that because it's like
Why?
Doesn't kill you, makes you strong. I don't know, because I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. You know, I probably would have gone home earlier and done more work. I probably would have done a lot more music had I not been out every night. You know, and at that time, people were making money out of those dance tracks. You know, you're throwing anything out and getting signed and putting on compilations and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was 6.
You know, and then they've got a little back catalogue of stuff to do. You know.
During that time, there was the major labels in the UK were paying 5 and 6 figure deals on singles and albums.
They were. Yeah.
And then
I did do one as well. I'll tell you what I did do. There was a Holloway & Co. record that came out on Incredible, you know, when Lynn was at Sony there, which used that John Davis orchestra thing. I'll do anything to make you mine. That did all right. We got some money for that one.
Did you have to?
I think it kind of like, you know, I've kind of done everything in reverse. I'm now, all I want to do is do the music now, and there's no real industry there anymore. I've missed the boat, haven't I? But, you know, the thing is, I've always found that when I chase the money, it never happens. You know, it's like every time I think I'm near it, it gets pushed further away by some little thing. So I'm just going to do what I enjoy and doing it. So and if money comes along, that's a byline, that's a sideline, that's a bolt extra.
Hang on. So if the goal was here, right?
Yeah.
Each time they pull the goal away from you, like
just like that. Just pushing it away. You know, I thought there was recently wasted 3 years, and there's actually a film script that's been written by Irving Welsh that we've never been allowed to see. It started about 3 or 4 years ago. Somebody came to us with the idea of making a film. I don't know if you ever see a film called Northern Soul by Elaine Constantine. It's a sort of coming of age type film where these people who used to go to these Northern Soul all night all day. But it was a good film, and we thought the plan was to do this set back in 1987 with me, Paul, and Danny going on holiday to Ibiza, and then ending with it taking off here. It's all about those early 2 years, just setting that bit, and then how it came up with it. And that's what we thought it was going to be. And Irving agreed to write something. And during that period, the production company that was going to do it got lumped in with some other things, like James Corbin in America. And it then suddenly went from that to being a 5-series Netflix type series, and then with all these made up characters that didn't exist, and it went completely off of what actually it was meant to be. You know what I mean? Once they started, we signed a deal, and we got a little advance, not much, but the writers got the big bit. But it wasted 3 or 4 years of our life. I managed to sort of pull it and doing it in the first place, which I thought was really tough. And you know, because they were getting the funding. They got development money, but after 3 years, it just all came to nothing. The deal just ended and nothing happened. And we were like, if it had gone back to what was the original thing, was an hour and a half, TV film almost, and that. But then once it got into the hands of other people, it just wandered off into being, you know, Sons of Anarchy with house music. You know what I mean? It was like it completely changed, and it all came to nothing. You know, and at the time, that's when I got ill as well. So I thought I'd have that, because it was the deal we'd done with it was like the day they start filming is when you get your advance, you know, which would have been a nice little lump. You know, and I thought I've got that coming, and then the publicity from that would get me work, and we'd do promotion things around. And I thought I've got all that to look forward to once I get over my illness thing. And it just all come like that, dust, just fell apart. But that's a familiar story anyway. That's happened to loads of people loads of times, isn't it? You know what I mean? We've all got one of them. So
it is par for course, brother. It is par for course. These people trying to call in now can't be calling in.
You know what it is as well. It does. It all changes from what the original thing was what it was meant to be, and then as soon as they sign you up and you can't do anything, then they want it to be something else. I mean, they were making up these people that were going to be in it, and making up a storyline that was like nothing to do with it.
So
if you just done a true story, it would have been good enough.
What exactly was this thing called for Netflix?
It didn't even have any name. And it's been since then. There's been loads of real crap ones on there. There's been loads of crap Ibiza films on Netflix, but they turned it down. I mean, the company that was doing it, I won't mention names, but they all the way for 3 years they said it was.
Watch, he's going to mention the name. He's just going to mention the name.
But it's not good thing to do to try and select. I try not to. You never know when you meet the same people coming down as you do going up, and you never know in the future, do you? You know. But I don't know how hard they tried, but every time we spoke to them, they're taking it here, they're meeting these people, they're doing that and all that, and it just didn't happen. You know? One of the things really, bada bing, bada ba, as they say.
Yep, c'est la vie, right? You just keep going. Yeah. Keep going. So now
I think I've worked out the life and how it works. And that is, it's a never-ending game of snakes and ladders. Right? When my phone rings, I'm either going along the board, or I'm going up a ladder, or down a snake. You know, and when everything's going really great for me, something comes along and trips me over. And whenever something's going really, really crap for me, something lifts me out of it. Do you know what I mean? Something like when I got the cancer thing, this treatment wasn't available. It wasn't available in England. And I was 2 days away from having to have it cut out. And I knew it was available in other countries, but they weren't going to have it in England because they didn't have it. And it's 30, 40 grand. It's a lot of money, really. But when my friend, I sent him I was trying to draft up the thing to start a GoFundMe page up. And I sent it to him just to sort of check it over, because I was like, I'm in an awe, and he felt like a beggar. And Colin Batts, a friend of mine, helped me write the thing out. And it was like, I would probably still be writing it now had he not sent it to his mum, who then posted it on Facebook, and it just went off. And then within 4 or 5 days, I had the money. You know, they raised 30 or 40 grand, it was altogether, in like a week. You know, I think it was a week or 2 or 10 days, and I had the money.
Somebody wrote.
And I was still in an hurry. I sent it to my mate's mum, and she posted it.
Let's give Proof Fitty a moment. Read this, please. Falling in shit and coming out smelling of roses all the time. It's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah. There's me. I'm the opposite of that. I could fall in a swimming pool full of tits and still come out sucking my thumb.
Oh, man.
I mean, the thing is, I think this pandemic thing, it's proved that, you just don't know what's around the corner. Nobody knows. There's all uncertainty. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. I mean, I'm back here with my mum and all that now, but at least I haven't, I've got some roof over my head. I've got my studio set up, and I've got food on the table. And, I wouldn't have had anything if I hadn't come back home, because this last year I'd have had all my bills of rent, play and all the other stuff, and I wouldn't have had no income coming in whatsoever. And I imagine these people who are going to have, because when the furlough thing stops here, loads of businesses are not going to go back to how they were. Shops aren't going to open. Well, at the moment, they're still taking the money, but when that stops, I think there's going to be an absolute wave of bankruptcies and things. And people realise they can do it from home, so they won't go back to the offices. But I mean, if you was like, I had 4 kids and big cars and private schooling and all iPads to buy for your family and all that, and all of a sudden you lost your job like that, there's going to be a lot of people that probably can't get to sleep at night worrying about finances and things. And at least I don't have that anymore. I haven't got nothing, but I don't owe anything. I've got no, I don't really have much, but I don't owe anyone anything. So I'm not worried about knocking on the door or paying certain bills and all that. I'm living a very plain lifestyle, really, at the moment, But I haven't given up. That's the thing. I still sit here. I even talk to myself at night sometimes when I'm doing my music. I mean, I even imagine scenarios when people listen to these tracks and go, "Oh yeah, that's great."
Hang on. Somebody asked before, because now I'm going to ask you about the kit. What DAW you're using? What sequencing program? They want people to ask.
I use Cubase because I use Cubase. I've actually used them all. I can use them all. I've got a little Apple in the back there which has got Pro Tools on it and Logic on it, just for if I get a project that someone wants to do in that. But basically, I've got a licky boom, computer that I built myself, PC. I've got everything on it. I've got all the toys. But I used to be a bit of a plug-in junkie, but when I redone it, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to put on all these things that I don't ever use. I'm going to learn how to use one channel strip properly. I'm going to use how to use a couple of EQs, because I don't have like 500 EQs. I'm going to learn how to use one saturation thing, like learn a few of them rather than just bombarding yourself with stuff that just confuses you even more. So I find myself just taking stuff off more than I do putting it on. But where before as well, I didn't really, I didn't read the manual. I didn't RTFM. I didn't read the fucking manual. I realised later on, oh, I've been doing that wrong. And if only I just read, when I get a new bit of kit now, I'm reading the manual on the way home. I'd actually read it before I even plug it in there. Whereas before, it was just open the box, get it out, and then you spend like weeks not being able to work out how to do it. And if you'd read the manual, it's there. Tells you that no one wants to read the manual, do they?
I just want to share this with you. Take a read of this.
Hello, Jim. Yeah, I met them guys.
See what I mean? The people that you see what I'm saying? How you touched.
That was Jim Ryan. You know Jim Ryan, do you, for Money Pennies?
Money Pennies, of course.
I met them before they were actually running clubs. I DJ'd them, the first one to play for them. And they brought their crowd down to Milk Bar in the early days.
See?
Yeah, they're a lovely bunch up there. I always feel really welcome when I go to Birmingham. It's a great city.
Okay, so what's the driving force now? What's in your brain today? Because
as soon as I finish the day, it's actually finishing this great track I've got going.
Not today.
As soon as we finish this, I'm going to turn around, and get going.
Wait. When I mean today, going forward from now till the summer and beyond, what's the thought process in your mind?
I'll be totally honest with you. I'm almost obsessed with finishing this project that I've got going, because like I was saying before about something pushing away, the amount of times I've got so near to fruition, like the grassroots coming through, and then lose interest and then walk away from it, and then find out a year later someone else does it and has a massive success with it. The same idea that you had, but you just don't follow through with it. That's happened to me so many times, even like little inventions I've had and things like that, think, well, that'd be a good idea, do that. And you don't. And then 2 years later, someone's making a fortune or doing really well with it. So I've got a one-track mind at the moment, well, 2-track, keeping me mum alive, and basically finishing this album, and there's so much you can do now. I mean, I've treated this room properly. I've done all the soda works type thing. It's not. I've made more music in this room in the last 2 years than I have done in the last 20 years.
That's a lot.
And I'm getting a good result of it. I've had loads of studios over the years, and they turned into more like offices. I just used to go there in the daytime and then do me emails and only about not really doing the music. Whereas now, the only real time I can do it is when she goes to bed about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Because otherwise she's knocking on the door all the time, and I have to get things out of cupboards and cooking and all that sort of stuff. So I get up at lunchtime. I go to bed at 6 a.m. and get up at lunchtime, do her stuff in the afternoon, watch a bit of telly with her, keep her company, and then I work every night through the night.
But when she's up in the morning, who's watching her when you get up in the morning? Your mom?
No, she's got a couple of panic button things. There's only a doorbell, but she's got one by her bed and one next to her thing. She's quite a big lady. If she falls over, I hear it. Don't worry about that. It's more like an earthquake.
I was wondering about that. What's going to happen?
A couple of times she's had a fall when it's really hard. I can't lift her off the floor on my own. I have to get other people to help me. I mean, she's doing all right, but she's luckily her brain's still together. her body's packing up. She forgets things, but she's not got dementia or anything like that, Well, don't know, but she seems all right. She just wants someone to talk to most of the time, and so I spend as much time as I can. She's basically the other side of that wall, So if she shouts my name, I hear it. If that thing's got a light on it, so if I've got headphones on, we'll go. But it's hard to do the music. I don't know if you notice it. When you're really concentrating on something, and someone comes in and breaks that conversation, you go back to it and you think, what was I doing? Like, where was I? You were going somewhere with something, and then you break the chain of thought, and then you go back to it. You can't remember what it was you were actually doing. You know what I mean? You were sort of planning out 4 steps in hell. That. And you know what I mean? And I just find that I work better when she's gone to bed at night, and then the phone's not ringing, Facebook on, all that sort of stuff. I turn my phone. There's people who are saying, "Oh, we tried to ring, you can never get hold of you." I said, "Well, it's because I'm doing something that I don't. If I was an open heart surgeon, I wouldn't have my phone on me. I wouldn't stop in the middle of the thing to do that. But why? I don't know why they think I've just got to take a nonsense call or check a post on Facebook. And I do that. I look at Facebook once or twice a day. I've got to stop drunk posting though. I've got to stop doing anything political because it's like.
Have people asked you to do live sets on the computer?
I've never watched one in my life, and seeing somebody in their kitchen jumping around. No, I was going to do one. Right? I was going to do one, but see, if I did it, I want to do it properly. I'd have cameras and angles and do it. But I was going to do one, but I'm actually soon to spend the time doing the music. I've got to finish it. I can't leave it. There's 20 tracks that are 85, 90% done, and 6 that are done. And all I've got to do is one a day is finish one more of them off. And I'll tell you what it is. It's all at stage now. It's just panning and automation. I've never really used automation properly. And now I've had a crash course. And what a difference these mixes are sounding now. I'm automating stuff.
Hang on. This came in. Read this, please.
Oh, don't stop talking. That's Mandy. She was a cloakroom girl in our clubs. Little Mandy. She was. We had a little family of people.
I'm saying is that they don't want to stop doing what you do. Just keep doing what you do. It's making.
No, but some nights, I might put something up and then you turn it back on and you see that 6 people have befriended you. You know what I mean? I should avoid things. But I'm quite often I'm right on it. I mean, I call.
This is the advice I tell everybody. When you write something, it's different than when we say it because you cannot take it back.
Yeah.
Got to be careful when you write. People who know that.
Yeah, it can be read in 2 ways, can't it? It's like you can say fuck off or fuck off. It can mean 2 different things completely, can't it? It can mean.
If you write it, it's bad.
I know. That's what happens actually quite a lot is people that, I'm saying things as a joke. I got a block on Facebook thing because it's so monitored now and they're so scared of anyone. My best mate, I said, nobody wants to see your ugly face, right? And it picked up the word ugly, like I was bullying him. This is a guy who's older than me, who I've known all my life. And then because I put the word ugly in it, it got told me off that it was an offensive thing. There's words that I've used all my life that are getting me in trouble.
Dirty.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, come on, grow up with it.
Can you explain to us here, the audience and myself, what the hell the big deal was, what the Prime Minister said in that newspaper that everybody's making a big deal about? He said something about people dead or something.
I think you say someone's talking to their cabinet and people, and then they say a throwaway comment. It shouldn't have been repeated. So it's like, it's just somebody stirring it up. I don't care what he said. To be honest with you, that's just a big deal
about it. What exactly?
It's just because they all want him out anyway. Like lots of the media and the press, they're all very left wing, and the Tories are not. But it's like they should be talking about what's going on now, not. I don't know what he said. He said something about it was maybe he would soon have the bodies piled up or something like that. I don't even know if he said it. Bodies piled up, then have another lockdown. But what he's saying is like. bollocks to that. We're not locking down again. But if you're talking to your mate, it shouldn't be repeated like that, should it?
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate.
Someone overheard it, yeah. But he's denied that today anyway. He was on the Prime Minister's Question Time today. He denied it. So I don't know. But, that's just all they do. The opposition always just looks for they just look for the thing, the opposition. They just look for any little thing they can to have a go at them, don't they?
Yep.
It's not that important, really, I don't think.
Before we wrap this up, is there anything that you need to tell us that we need to know? Because I know there's something that before we say goodbye to you, you're not done yet, are you? You're not done yet. You're like, you got more power in you, don't you? To really. Yeah.
I'm just starting, mate.
You really are starting again?
Well, no, I mean, I think.
Okay, let me rephrase the question.
I still think I'm a really good DJ.
Let me ask. I don't care about, because you know how this works today. You don't have to be good. It's social media that makes you good, which means that even as great as you can be, someone who's real crap can be bigger because of the following. Here's my question. Do you feel you have the chutzpah to compete against that?
Well, I've already got it planned to, start the YouTube channel and all that sort of stuff, get going on that. But I need someone who knows a lot more about it than I do now. I used to know.
Stop, everybody. Help Nicky out. Come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, that will be my next move, because it's just time consuming, isn't it? Doing it all. It takes up a lot of time. And
is a killer. That's the job.
I want to be an influencer, a bad influencer. That'd be a bad influencer.
Yeah, but what's the difference between our parents and the elders? Then by this age that we're all at, would be done already with our careers. We're just, a lot of us are starting to get hot again. And roll again,
We always went, I'm not just thinking back to it now, I don't know who these influencers think they're influencing, because they're not influencing me. Like if someone's trying to punt something to me, I go, la, 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 I'm not listening. It's just like with music, right? Just if you go around, if you're playing the music to somebody, just put it on. Don't say it's you. Don't say it's anything. And people then, if they like it, they ask. They say, "Who's this?" Right? But if you say it's,
hang on.
If you try and make me listen to something, I won't listen.
Yeah, but you're a record shop boy. You come from that same era I do, so I get that. But here's the problem: you got 1 million records a month coming, 1 million records a week coming out. People have to do promotion of some sort. I get that. I know it's not right.
There is that. But then I'm thinking of the old way around of it being like, as I said, there's a power of 1,000. Like if you've got 1,000 fans, you've got something to build on from that, if you know what I mean. I think I could, I don't know. I'm thinking of I don't know yet. I am going to have to get someone to do that, because that's what you have to do. But I don't rate what they're saying. I mean, you can buy loads of likes from sweatshops in India that go to get you loads more people liking it for you.
No, you know what? Let me clarify this to everybody. I'm going to clarify it to you.
Well, you used to be able to.
If you think YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook don't know that those are fake bars, then you're silly. Because they can see it. I could see it if you look at the algorithms. So here's the deal.
What it was this, it was like Twitter. Models weren't even getting booked unless they had over a couple of million people like it.
You have 1 million followers. Meanwhile, it's from Mexico City or India.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. They probably are a lot more on it now than they used to be, aren't they? I don't know. I don't know. I know I've got a hardcore people that like me and will like my music and like my cubs. So I will start some new things up once I've got this album out of the way.
Are you ready to travel again, Nick?
I guarantee you the DJs and the people I work with will like this music.
Are you ready to travel again? Are you ready to get out here and fight?
I can't wait to get out. Can't wait to get out. That's the bit I miss. I've been all around the world with a set of headphones. And that's the only way to travel, isn't it? That's the bit I'm missing. But I've got to.
All right, because people are saying they'll give you a gig. They love you on the chat. You'll see later.
Just get in touch. Get in touch.
Teasdale, get in touch with Nicky Holloway.
No, if you send me a message, I'll put you in touch with the agent.
Holloway, give him some love. Come on now.
I haven't seen any of that, and it doesn't come up on this one, does it?
Oh, I'll show you. Hang on. There you go.
All right. Thank you. I will do.
Give everybody tell you they love you. See what they're saying, Nicky? Promise that you'll never do Rappers Delight ever again. See, Victoria?
Yeah. You know what someone's going to have to do? Interview you.
I don't know who can do it. I have yet to find. Every time I get these interviews, they were like,
someone should turn it round and get your story.
Somebody's got to sit me down. Somebody's got to know my story and know how to ask it.
So someone else who does this sort of thing.
Somebody's out there that's got the big boy pants on. You call Karen. Say, I'll do the True House Stories for Lenny Fontana. Nicky Holloway, I can't thank you enough. When is this album? If this album's coming, when?
Well, you'll start to hear bits of it soon. I'll start letting bits of it go out.
Nicky, you got to get me the album too, so we can help you. We'll help you.
I kind of feel like a little bit like, because no one's with this Spotify thing, no one's getting anything out of it. I kind of would sooner sell 500 copies on my own website to people I know. You know, and I think I could. And I'd do better out of that than I would do if I had
that's
200 million listeners. You know what I mean?
I got news for you. That's what a lot of people are doing. They're doing 300 to 500 copies. They're selling.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's a bit like the old days with the vans, isn't it? You know, making the thing.
Forget about vans. You don't have to do the van. You could do it. Right. Somebody could get it right from you, and all you got to do is ship it out. Done.
See, but the thing is, you know, that old saying of like, with the internet, you know, it's like the people who made money in the gold rush were the people who sold shovels and the spades. And a lot of these websites that do all that for you tell you they can do this, that, and the other, and get you on all these things. I've done a few tester things with it, and it's all a bit. No one ever tells you actually how many they sold on these websites, because they're all a bit embarrassed because there ain't really that many, you know. But they all pretend.
You know that nobody says nothing. Oh, I'm doing great. I used to love when I hear that. You know,
how many actually sold then? Yeah, no.
It's actually was the word I hate from the UK, and everybody's gonna slam me for this. Is I hate the word massive, because every time I heard that word massive, I would think in my mind this thing was chock-a-block, like ridiculously packed.
Nobody knows what's going to be massive. You don't know what's going to be a hit.
It's massive.
Everybody who makes a record thinks it's going to be a hit. They want it to be a hit.
Massive.
It just doesn't happen, does it?
It's a this, it's a that.
All right. Well, this has been massive.
And you are massive, Nick.
Yeah, I am now. Look.
Nicky Holloway. I remember Nicky Holloway was like skin and bones.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are skin and bones anymore.
I'm turning into an American DJ now.
I was going to say, you Hawaiian shirts. You got the Hawaiian shirt and everything. Check you out.
It's the only thing that fits me still. No, but you know what? I've started to see a few people lately, and a lot of people have put on a bit of weight. So
it's just COVID. It's because you were.
I'll lose it again when I get out and about again. But I go to the shops for my mum, and I'm sitting in the seat all day. As soon as I'm out and about again. You know, I really need a rave. I need to do a dance.
Are you actually in London, or are you up somewhere else?
I'm in Barnet. It's in North London. It's sort of.
Everybody stop by Nick's and say.
Near Trent Park. No, don't do that. I'll get annoyed.
Karen, don't worry. I love the word massive. I'm just using this example. She's saying, "Oops, I think I've said massive to you, Lenny." No,
I'll say something massive.
I want to say thank you to everyone that tuned in tonight. Nicky, I'm going to tell you, and also you didn't know this, but this is the first time Nicky's ever done an interview like this ever. So we got a real true story from a guy.
And David Dunn, I didn't use the C word once.
I didn't hear it. I was like,
I didn't use the C word once because, you know, it's a bit of a Marmite word. People either love it or hate it.
You didn't use the word color.
No. Would I? Could it be the color of my skin?
You know what I'm talking about. It's 4 spaces. C is the first.
Oh, yes.
C is the first word of the word, and T.
See you next Tuesday.
That's right. So you people put the fun in the CT. Yeah. Good night, Nicholas. Nicholas Holloway, all the way from Barney, England, London.
Barnet.
Sorry, I was going to say I thought it was Barnet, but I thought I heard Barney.